Health IQ Podcast, Unseen Grief, Loss Beyond Death. Part 2.
Welcome to Health IQ. Today we are visiting with Dr. Rebecca Hodge, and we were having a great discussion on grief and decided to have her back for a second episode because it was such a good discussion. Our crew today is Joyce Runyon and Bobby Hockaday, and I am Brenda Bishop. So, Rebecca, let's just give those who might not have heard the last one a real brief overview of what grief is and some of those types of grief that we don't normally think of as grief.
We were able to talk about grief. Normally comes out of the loss of someone we care about, but we also were able to discuss this topic of disenfranchised grief, which is it could be a loss of a job, your home, a pet. We also did try to discuss some of the stigma around losses that people don't want to talk about, a loss in suicide, a loss to an overdose. And I just wanted to say that grief is a natural response to loss, and it's an essential part of the healing process and helping individuals to find ways to adjust to their new reality.
Okay, so that's a good definition of grief. And then you had some steps for our processes for that, or what do we want to call them? Stages.
Yeah, we were able to talk about there's research by Kubler-Ross on the 5 stages of grief. And we also talked about, though, I like to include the stage of shock. So the 5 stages include denial, bargaining, depression, anger, and acceptance. But it's also important to remember when you go through a loss, it's a shock. It's a shock to your system. It can be a shock of physical in your body. And those stages are not linear. You do not hit one and then the next and the next. Grief kind of bounces around. But again, grief is the other really first process of grief is talking about it and being able to be around people who are accepting and open without judgment to listen to your grief.
Well, and one of the things that really stood out to me in our previous one, and you guys just have to go listen to it, it's really good, is that one of the first things is we have to accept it ourselves that we are going through grief and recognize that.
I think it's also important to recognize that when we talk about this disenfranchised grief or different ways of grieving, not just the loss, that we may be in those different stages at different times, right? Sitting right here and now, you and I are probably in a stage of grief, but maybe it wasn't for a person. Maybe it's for a project we didn't get to do, or one that I often think about is my PhD. I got to graduate, but it was out of a school in Kentucky, so I didn't get to walk. And I was like, okay, that's fine. It is what it is. I grieved that. I was like, oh, I missed out on this huge event, and this time to be proud of my accomplishment. Right now I'm accepting of that, but I was just saying everybody's in a different stage.
And we all go through grief of many different things. So we had sort of stopped our last podcast when we were starting to talk about some of the signs of when we might need help or need to make sure we're not just trying to deal with it all of ourselves.
Right. So grief, some things that I would ask people to look for in themselves, if the prolonged intensity of grief is overwhelming, if this lasts for months or even years, it may be time to ask for help. Beyond your friends and family, maybe seeking professional help. If your functions, if you're unable to function in your daily life, like work, school, your hygiene is starting to lag, that's a good time to also reach out and ask for help. Some other things that we would look for is those physical symptoms I talked about. I am Dr. Rebecca Hodge, but I'm not medical Dr. Rebecca Hodge. So it's important if your body if there's things that are changing in your body, that you talk to your doctor, you reach out for your primary care.
Mm.
I've even heard of an illness called broken heart syndrome, and it's an actual medical diagnosable thing that I don't know a lot of people if they talk about that or not.
Wow, I had not heard of it.
Again, I'm not a medical doctor, so reach out to that. Reach out to your medical provider if you're physically not feeling well. Thoughts of self harm or suicide, please reach out if you're feeling like you're having these thoughts or plan to harm yourself. We wouldn't want that for anybody. Along with that is extreme mood swings, right? So if you're laughing one minute, angry another, and you can't get some type of balance in that, that'd be a good time to reach out and ask for help. Um, Avoiding the reality of the loss. So part of grief, like I said, one of those stages is denial. But if you're avoiding the reality, you're talking about it, or not even, again, avoiding that conversation with your friends, your family, it's okay to reach out to a professional to walk through those stages with you. Feeling isolated, numbing, or detaching from your emotions. So another big one is substance abuse, right?
Mhm.
Culturally, I think a lot of people do turn to maybe alcohol or something to numb an emotion or not have to deal with that. But that's what we would like for you to reach out, and talk those things out instead of just trying to make the feelings go away. In therapy, I know a lot of people get nervous about what therapy is, but
Mm.
sometimes it's just sitting in that raw emotion and just feeling it, not avoiding it, and actually going to that place of experiencing that sadness. I promise you, it will not last forever, but it is uncomfortable. And seeking a professional to do that with is what I would recommend.
So some of the things we were talking about made me think about a TV show called Hoarders, and they say a lot of those people on that show, um, what grief is what started their hoarding.
Yeah.
So it's maybe change of behavior or becoming recluse, a recluse,
hmm
however you say that, where you don't want to leave your house, could be a sign of grief.
I've worked in the mental health field for over 15 years, and we use a lot of different terms, right? We
Mhm.
use the terms of anxiety, depression, a lot of different diagnoses I've worked with. But for me, I tend to think that a lot of what I work with does stem from grief. Number one, not being able to talk about it for whatever reason, right? Maybe it's a societal pressure. Oh, that happened to you many years ago. Get over it. Or maybe it's, I don't know what to say. So, or I feel uncomfortable with what to say. So I'm not going to say anything to my friend, even though I know they're hurting.
Mhm.
Um, Even if you're not a professional counselor, it's still okay to ask. It's still okay to um, bring it up and say, I acknowledge that you're going through or you have pain. So let's talk about those things. And if you're a friend or you're talking to someone and it feels like it's too much, you can always encourage them to seek professional help too.
I think some of us do feel like we don't have the skill set or the knowledge to help them, and so we're afraid to ask how they're doing because we might be not be able to say the right thing.
I appreciate you saying that because
Uh-huh.
I do tend to tell people if you've been through a loss, the worst thing has already happened, right? And that goes
Mhm.
from a loss of a loved one to a job. Talking about it doesn't make it happen again. It's talking about it.
Mhm.
It does make you sometimes relive those feelings, and a lot of us don't want to feel those negative feelings, and I don't feel feelings are negative, but I know some people do. And so, yeah, another thing I wanted to say is when grief is silenced, whether by others or even by our own fears of burdening others, it can lead to those feelings of isolation and make it harder to come to terms with the loss. So it's important to find a safe space. If you are trying to share your grief with a friend or a family and they're dismissive, or they say no, get over it, or you should be able to be over it by now, that'd be a really good time to seek professional help. We're As a therapist, we're not going to tell you that. We're going to listen, and we're going to hold that safe space for you to be able to share those feelings.
Oh, that's important. I'm one of those people who doesn't express feelings very well. So, because maybe it is fear of expressing feelings, but um, I hadn't really thought about that.
I think what sometimes we do, what I like to do in therapy is, yeah, crying feels uncomfortable. It's not fun. Let's just do it for 20 minutes, let's just knock out those tears. Let's see what happens. And getting in touch with those feelings rather than pushing them away or isolating ourselves or covering them up. That really is part of the grief process and then into the healing process. If you find you're listening to this and it reminds you of something that you've lost and you're like, wait, I didn't get to process that, or no one wanted to listen to that. Seek help, seek a professional who's willing to sit there and give you that space to go back there. I think one of the other reasons we even came up to talk about this subject was the impact grief has had on our community. And maybe other communities, right? I kind of expressed grief as the loss of some industry many, many years ago. I don't think it's appropriate to still sit and say, oh, get over it. The trucking company left, whatever, moving on. Or the railroad, used to have a stop here. I don't know what they call it.
Yeah.
A stop, and they moved that on. And it's important to still talk about, even in our community, there's a lot of loss. There was a lot of loss within that, and
Within a few years.
within a few years, yeah, it was. I remember I was here. It was pretty quick, and instead of just move it, just that's what's happened. So move on. It's okay to talk about that. It's okay to say, wow, look at the changes, look at the impact it's had years later, and if we don't talk about it and we don't make change, we will continue to see that in different areas. So I just wanted to bring that up too. I think it's
Yeah.
important.
And you're right. That's what sort of got us all thinking about grief was you mentioned community grief, and we had not even heard about community grief.
I think another big grief in the community, our community, and different ones that I've worked in is from this opiate epidemic and fentanyl and the substance use that we're seeing. And uh, it's overwhelming. It is overwhelming. It is hard to grasp and think about how much loss has happened from that. But I think it's also important to talk about, especially in different agencies, different circles. We're all trying to figure out ways to support and help. And sometimes it's really nice to be able to come together and share those ideas.
Right. So even if you think about the meth before all this, there was quite a bit of people whose health was ruined.
Mm-hmm.
The houses burned down. Lots of things all associated with that. And we still have some meth.
Right. And we tend to think of that and say, oh, it was the substance use. Well, no, you just talked about somebody losing their health, their home, but they have that stigma of, well, it was substances, so you need to move forward. Well, it's okay to address the other pieces of that grief that person may be dealing with.
Well, and substances is not just something you can just turn off.
Right.
Because it's it changes your brain to have to need it. So that's another thing that we often don't think about is it's not something you can choose. Once you start, you can choose not to do.
Yeah, that's another great topic we can keep going on with.
We'll have to do that on a different day for sure. But I was just reading about that and, even things as simple as the cigarettes and alcohol. So we've covered, let's see, the things the different types of grief we've covered. Did we cover everything that we needed to make sure we covered? I guess that's what I wanted to make sure we didn't leave something out. And so I guess my other thought was, as a community, is there something we could be doing as a community? Maybe, people don't want to talk to a whole community. But is there something that we could do as a community to help people get through grief of losses or just our community grief?
I think two big things that stick out for me is the first thing is talking about it, right? We will never learn from our history if we don't remember what has happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's okay to talk about there has been a thriving industry. There has been things, and I see a lot of people out there who bring it up, who do talk about those things. So it's okay to, again, keep that conversation going. And the second thing I see really great in our community is all this agencies that are working to support, right? When I moved back, I heard a lot of there's not enough mental health. There's not a lot. There is, right? I think we're just maybe not sharing enough of that information. There's a great set of people who are cleaning up the town a little bit every Tuesday, and the health council is doing great to reach out and talk with other people, really to get everybody to come together. And everybody has really good ideas. And I think instead of isolating ourselves and siloing these ideas, coming together and first addressing the grief and then talking about change and what could it look differently, how it could look differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we really have seen a lot of change in the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Well, even things that had started before COVID and then sort of got put on hold, they're now coming back down through like our Main Street district and things like
Yeah.
that. So there's quite a bit of new stuff going on, and where people are trying to make the town look a little better. Sorry,
Knew that was gonna happen.
well, sorry about that. Woo. So before we wrap up, we need to once again give some if people are needing help, where they can go for help. So, immediate help, of course, there's the hotline.
Yes.
Which is
988.
yes. And they could make an appointment with a therapist, and you want to talk about what
Yeah.
you're doing at your organization?
So I work for Professional Counseling Associates. It's here. Ralph Moya started this agency in the 70s, and he was a great member in the community, really supportive of mental health. He recently passed away, so I stepped in to be the clinical director. We accept insurances, commercial, private, and Medicaid and Medicare. So if anybody's looking for individual therapy, or we provide individual therapy, a lot of that is through telehealth, not everyone's favorite, but the other service we provide is CCSS. It's Community Comprehensive Support. It's to support and build skills. So that's a Medicaid paid for service. And so if anybody is needing that for their kids, themselves, our number is 575-472-5383. We just hired 3 new therapists, so we have room to meet with people. And of course, if you're dealing with any of this grief and you want a safe space to talk, it's a good resource here in town. Because we offer telehealth, we can reach outside other communities as well. So you don't have to be in Tucumcari to use the service.
Well, thank you. Also, we want to just plug our website, because we do have some information to help people deal with different types of mental health issues, and a great resource directory as well. But we also have a bunch of information on anxiety, which sort of builds out of I'm from grief. So some other things that you can be thinking about. And we'd like to once again thank you for sticking around and doing a second episode.
Thank you.
And then we want to thank everybody else for watching, not attending, right? Watching this episode of Health IQ, and come back next time for another topic that will be of interest to your family.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Dr. Rebecca Hodge, LPCC Clinical Director, Professional Counseling Associates. Our host was Brenda Bishop.
Health IQ podcast crew. Our director was Robert F. Hockaday. Our producers are Robert F. Hockaday and Joyce Runyon. Our camera operator, Robert F. Hockaday. Our second camera assistant, Joyce Runyon. This episode was edited by Robert F. Hockaday. Credit music was provided by David Morris. Funding for Health IQ provided by a New Mexico Better Together grant. Brought to you by the Quay County Health Council. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Quay County Health. If you have any content ideas, reach out to us by email healthikpodcast@gmail.com. More info about this topic and more available on our Health IQ blog, QCHEALTHCO.UNCIL.org.
This podcast was created solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for advice from a healthcare or mental health professional.